Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
I'm so glad we have the power of editing, so people don't have to listen to me fumble that intro for a minute. Look, I'm just gonna kick straight into it. AEW stuff, I guess your update on that. A bunch of people got suspended, pretty much everybody involved. Trios titles got stripped. World title got stripped. We have brand new Trios champions as well, straight into a match to crown those, tournament for the world title, and it looks like people are starting to come off of suspension now, if they were involved in breaking up the fight, the likes of the producers, Brandon Cutler, etc. So still an evolving story, and we'll keep with you as more details start to emerge, and maybe talk of these legal proceedings coming on down the line as well.
Yeah. Besides, the most important thing is JF is back.
That is the most important thing. Jumping over to the WWE camp, where we usually live, there's been a number of crossovers at the moment with NXT, with the main roster, and bits and pieces. For example, Toxic Attraction seem to be working programs on the main roster as well as programs on NXT.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time when things are in the most flux we have seen between NXT and the main roster in a long, long time.
Yeah, obviously another great example of that would be Solo Sikoa. We'll talk about him a little bit more later on. But even, people jumping over between Raw and SmackDown, Street Profits, Alpha Academy. We're having a few people jump around. Braun Strowman appeared on both brands. It's weird. It doesn't seem as though anybody has a particular main show. It seems like people are just sort of jumping around, which is in a big contrast to, talks about having a draft here and being more stringent on those rosters. We've gone into a more free-flowing approach, I guess.
We still don't know about what the rest of the month is, because the rumor about the draft was that it could happen at any point in September.
It's true.
Up to the end of September.
Still have a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. It is a very interesting situation when you only have one world title. Let's be honest. Our champion is carrying two titles, but it's technically one.
Mm-hmm.
Until they decide to split them. As right now, until further notice, we have one world champion. We have one world championship. So it makes sense that if you have world championship talent, they would jump between the shows. We have one set of tag team champions, so it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. It just sort of is a lot of mix and matching. And I go back and forth in my head multiple times trying to figure out, would I prefer moving back to that hard and fast brand split piece, or would I prefer this more sort of free-flowing section that we're seemingly moving into at the moment?
I think I would prefer to have two set rosters for the main roster, but have it where they can go down to NXT. And NXT is free to flow into the main rosters to get them more exposure to the main roster fans.
Yeah, I think NXT is the big wrench, and with Solo, with Toxic Attraction, and with a few other people who have done it, it's good to, as you say, poke your nose in, say hello to the main roster, and try some stuff out. I think maybe the biggest, or the start of this, brand unseparation has been the women's tag titles, just because they have to be defended across brand, and then, the women's divisions were pretty mix and matched, and it's just sort of spread out even further. But this is my lovely segue to getting in so I can talk about the women's tag team championships, because we got new champions.
That only took, 3 weeks?
Look, this time it wasn't Dakota holding the title for a short reign. Yet.
Dasha and Naomi haven't returned yet. So I would be careful about what you say.
Shush. At the moment, Kai and Sky are holding the belts. At the moment.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it was an inevitability. But I did like that that they did have like these individual matches with Aaliyah and Raquel to build their experience, but it wasn't an inevitability that eventually Guy and Kai would eventually take the titles. It just happened a lot sooner than I thought it would.
Yeah, it seemed almost like, as you say, like we were going to run with this for a little while and have Kai and Sky chase, but it just didn't end up being that way at all. They basically challenged for them and immediately got given them. But hey, I'm never going to complain that Dakota Kai has gold around her waist.
Yeah. I'll just be happy to not see a champion with wearing the title backward.
Fair enough. Well, I've just gone through and I've double checked, and because of when Raw aired on September 12th and the fact that we're recording this, or maybe not, okay, by the end of this week, it will be the longest title reign that Dakota Kai has had in the WWE. She has previously held the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships for less than an hour, as well as holding them for 3 days. So, claps.
When this airs, she will have held these titles long.
There you go. Assuming she doesn't lose it in between.
Well, she couldn't, because SmackDown would air on Friday, which would be 4 days.
Okay. We're good. Longest Dakota Kai reign of all time. But yeah, I don't know. Kai and Sky with the belts is the money. That's where it is. Raquel and Aaliyah were cool with their tag team. I think it was only ever going to be a temporary fixture. But no, I like it. I enjoyed it. And now I get to see what Kai and Sky are going to do with the belts. I would say preferably unify them with the NXT belts, but I've said that 100 times now and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Look, we can keep saying it.
Yeah. Let's be honest about it. Those titles' existence in NXT are the reason why they don't have to go back down.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it is what it is. Yeah, I agree. I'd rather have just one set of titles and have it be free-flowing, that they legitimately show up on any brand, not just show up once every 2 years on NXT.
Yeah, it was a pretty big jump between the last time they did it. Let's stay in the women's division as well. Let's talk about SmackDown Women's Championship. It was Liv Morgan looking for her challenger, and unfortunately for her, lightning strikes 3 times because it's Ronda Rousey's shot.
Yeah, it was relative ease too. I mean, Rousey is what she is.
Really, the only saving grace that Liv Morgan might have here is that Shayna Baszler seems to not be finished. And so I could see this turn into some sort of triple threat match where Rousey-Baszler is the actual storyline. That's really the only saving grace Liv's gonna have. We keep talking about how Liv needs to win a bit more cleanly with her championship defenses. I don't see a way that she's gonna cleanly 1-2-3 Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. The only way she retains the title here is if Baszler gets involved. If Baszler gets involved and costs Rousey the match, that would allow them to split off in their own storyline, which having more storyline for the women is always going to be a good thing.
Yep. Always going to be
happy. Keeps the title on Liv and allows her to have a little bit longer of a reign.
I'm down for it. It's all just down to whether that's what we end up getting or not. And it's always hard to tell. For me, the money is Rousey versus Baszler. It doesn't need a title. No. I think they can do an amazing storyline without it. But
I do have an interesting twist on the storyline.
Go ahead.
How about them forming a team and going after the tag team titles?
Don't say that. Then Kai's reign is going to be short. Because I don't think anybody could stop Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Yeah. It'd be another storyline yet again. I'm going to vote against it purely for the safety of Dakota Kai. We saw what happens when Kai goes up against Shayna Baszler. It's not a fun time.
And then you have Ronda Rousey, who's just even worse.
Yeah, they do have Bayley in their corner now, though, so a little bit of added confidence. Kai might be able to overcome her previous fallings. Let's open up the main event topic. Let's open it up so that we can go into our song as a part of it. SmackDown. I mentioned him earlier, jumping between NXT, jumping between SmackDown. Solo Sikoa is a super important player in the Bloodline storyline, but he also went down to NXT and decided, screw it, I want some gold too, and just sort of took the NXT North American Championship this week.
It was actually, I felt that it was actually it was all set up with it supposed to have been Wesley. Wesley was supposed to have gotten the shot. But Carmelo Hayes, being the chicken he is, decided to take out Wesley. And was like, I'm not going to have to defend my title. And basically got baited into challenging the Bloodline's newest member. And not long after, Solo Sikoa finally accomplished his goal of taking the NXT North American Championship. Something he'd been trying for months to get.
Yeah, it's almost like, as soon as he comes up to that main roster and gets that, advice from everybody up there, it pays off and he's able to go back down with some renewed confidence and do it. Because we'd seen Solo fail a few times at the North American Championship, multi-man matches, and I think he had at least one singles for it as well. But now he's finally got that final piece of the puzzle that he needed to be able to capture that gold, and seemingly probably going to show up on the main roster with it. Obviously, SmackDown hasn't happened yet, but I can imagine him dragging it around everywhere.
Yeah, I would expect it. I don't think there's any reason you don't pull this trigger. You're not going to involve it in the Bloodline storyline, which then makes you wonder what's going to happen with the redheaded stepchild, quite literally, of the Bloodline, Sami Zayn.
I still think there's money in Sami Zayn attempting to beat Gunther and attempting to beat Bobby Lashley, like back-to-back weeks, or like the same week, back-to-back shows, so that he can have gold like the rest of the Bloodline. I still think that's a cool little storyline for him.
Yeah. I think it would be neat for that. It would almost get him killed, certainly, to face those two opponents in a week. Honestly, I could see him capturing the 24/7 title.
Yeah, that's your other one.
It's not as fun, but I could see it happening, and then him hiding behind the Bloodline to keep the title.
Yeah, that's the two options, right? Or I guess the third option is do nothing involving titles with Sami.
Well, the third option is betraying the Bloodline by teaming up with Kevin Owens.
True. I do think that's the eventual end game. I don't know how soon it is, though. I feel like that's going to happen. Well, how far away? Maybe like 4 or 5 months from now. I don't know if both titles will still be on the Usos at that point in time or whatever, but I think there's still a bit of money in the Sami Zayn being a part of the Bloodline storyline before any sort of betrayal or inevitable doom. We don't need to rush it. We can chill out and we can just cruise along and enjoy, as you say, the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, I literally was watching SmackDown on Friday, and I was like, and that was my first thought about Sami Zayn, is he's literally the redheaded stepchild of this group. Because he's literally redheaded.
It works pretty well. Well, it is over halfway now of our show. Time to go into our entrance theme this week. It is, as alluded to, the brand new NXT North American Champion, Solo Sikoa, and it is playing for you right about now. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Sticking sort of with this Bloodline piece, we got so much more still to go, and I don't really know, where Roman Reigns is going to go next. It seemed as though Drew McIntyre was not finished, but Karrion Kross is ready for Drew. So I don't think it really matters if Drew McIntyre is ready or not, or finished with Roman or not.
Yeah. Which is fair. I I kind of expected it, to be honest, especially with everything that went on during the match between them. I definitely saw them splintering off and maybe bringing Drew back in a couple months or something after dealing with Karrion Kross. But then it does often question is the World Championship actually going to be defended at Extreme Rules?
Yeah. There's no real, I guess, person currently standing in front of him. Like, there's a number of talent who you could very quickly elevate to that position. There's just nobody standing there right now, especially if Cross versus Drew is going to be the big one. Obviously, your Gunthers and your Bobby Lashleys have their gold. Edge still dealing with Judgment Day. Seth Rollins, Matt Riddle still going at it. It does sort of cut you down, your possible number of contenders.
I think if I have a match here, if I do have a match with the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, I think I'd have Finn. I think I'd have Finn in the match, and then because you have the rest of the Judgment Day dealing with Edge and Rey, so they would be kind of preoccupied with that, especially with. And by the way, Dom is killing it in this role right now so far. It's only been 2 weeks, but he's been so much better than he was the previous 2 years. So and the Bloodline completely neutralizes Judgment Day anyway, and I think it would be a fun match. I don't think that anybody would expect Finn Balor to win the title. So, but I think that would be a fun match to have.
Yeah. Looking at like the list of people, I'd also be pretty interested. I know alignments and stuff, and they've already done it once or multiple times. But running back a Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, once off, if not just to tease or continue to test that alignment of Sami Zayn.
Yeah,
but
the only problem with that is it looks pretty much like it's Kevin Owens versus Theory right now.
True.
That is assuming that Theory didn't get survived being ethered by Kevin Owens' promo.
To be fair, Theory is also involved in the title hunt.
Yeah. I honestly, this may be out of left field or something. I expect at Extreme Rules a match for the briefcase between Kevin Owens and Theory.
Okay. I always love it when a briefcase holder puts it up on the line. I'm always down for that kind of storyline. Last thing I'm going to throw out is a Reigns opponent. Just do Shinsuke.
Well, yes, Shinsuke never got his match.
Just throw him out. It'll be fun. The obvious dark horse pick that I don't want to pick is Braun Strowman.
Yeah,
I just
it's
feel
a little early for that.
Yeah, it's way too soon in his return for him to just come out and lose to Roman Reigns. And it'd be silly for him to just return and steamroll over top of Roman Reigns.
You know what? Here's a dark horse. And it could get us further on one of our boys, too.
Okay.
Put The Miz in it, and then you have Dexter Lewis showing up.
Yeah.
In a Roman Reigns match.
Why not? At this point, why not? I don't know what the Extreme Rules card is going to look like. It's not too far away, but it is pretty up in the air. Honestly, the most likely outcome is we probably just don't end up with a title match, or if we do, it's just like a triple threat with Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre in there. Yeah, I don't quite. My big brain cannot foresee the championship match as clearly as it normally can. I think you're right. I think Kevin Owens, Theory. I think Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross, Edge Ray with the Judgment Day, Riddle Rollins. I don't know if Gunther Sheamus is finished. There's quite a few storylines going on, and it doesn't leave a lot of talent left to be feuding with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. And it could also be just a give him the pay-per-view off. Because he'll probably be at the pay-per-view that shall not be named.
You gotta have a title match afterwards.
There. Yeah. So maybe. Because they haven't really built any obvious storyline towards the title right now.
Just feed him Drew Gulak. Done. It'll be a good match. It won't be long, but it'll be a good match. Alrighty, what are we at? We're at 22-ish minutes. Let's talk about Sheamus and Gunther, because these two continue to be two of the top guys, just banger after banger.
They literally want to fight forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime they stand up against each other, they're swinging. That has been some amazing shots of them. On Friday this past week, they were fighting outside the ring while Imperium and Brawling Brutes were fighting inside the ring, and it was just quite a spectacle. Them two just want to go at it. And it makes me smile because the crowd really got behind Sheamus. I think people are starting to get on that. Sheamus deserves our respect train. He's had a 15-year career. How many people can say that they've been with WWE for 15 years?
Very few.
Yeah. And he's a multi-time world champion. You have never heard one ill word about Sheamus from anybody. So I think it's a situation where he's finally getting his just desserts, and maybe eventually he does get the final piece of the puzzle that he needs. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. This feud is not over. I think we'll be seeing these 6 very talented European men in some sort of combination over the next several weeks until we get to another Sheamus Gunther match.
All I'm going to say, 3 words, best of 7. That's it. That's all.
But you realize that means that they have to team up as a tag team at the end of it.
No, the end of this best of 7 is Sheamus winning the title and Gunther giving him his respect.
Yeah. I think this is just fun. And we'll have to see exactly where they're going, but everything about it, all 6 of these men are very talented. The Imperium's characters are really into it right now, because you could tell just by their facial expressions, their actions. When Gunther comes out, they commands total respect of the other two. And I think it just works quite well. Gunther, I think, has broken maybe that glass ceiling that we were worried about being on top of him if he did come over. Mm-hmm. I think there's a very realistic chance that within the next year and a half, you could see Gunther being the first German WWE champion.
It's entirely possible. I think it's a lot more possible if those titles are split back off, for sure. But, yeah. The sky's the limit for him once Sheamus finally takes his title off him at the end of their Best of 7 series. I'm going to speak it into existence. If I say it enough, it's got to happen. There's not many people out there that I would say I want to see a Best of 7 from. And these are just 2 dudes who I feel like could put on 7 unique and good matches. And
all right. I will say this. You get your Best of 7, but the 7th match has to be a 3 Stages of Hell match.
That's just like a Best of 9. Fine, I will take it. Alright, well, we only got a couple minutes left in this week's show. Is there anything else from across the wrestling world that you want to throw out here before we run out of time? Do you rapidly skim?
I'm looking.
Could be Raw, could be SmackDown, could be NXT, could be MLW. That's the most random one I could think of.
I guess we referenced it. Dexter Lumis kidnapped Mrs. Mexican.
Yeah, this is what happens when you release the criminal out.
Yeah.
He just reoffends.
Yeah. And not only did that happen, but apparently he left a drawing for their children in their house.
When you say it like that, it's real creepy.
Yeah. Have you met Dexter Lumis?
Thankfully, no.
True. Yeah, this
feud's great.
This is this was an amazing way to introduce the character in a way that I didn't think was possible for him, because I wasn't sure how creepy they'd want to go with it, and they decided to turn it up to 11. I don't know. Eventually, we are going to have to hear from Dexter Lumis's mouth why he's doing this. But yeah, it's just I think we're just having a bit of a fun. The Miz is elevating several stars at once, and this includes Dexter Lumis, who is still quote unquote not on the part of the company.
Of course. Well, we'll see what he does next week when we come back to have our next episode, because we are out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling R&D up. And we will catch you next week.